But these societal and global discomforting and sometimes discontenting events may not necessarily seem to directly affect us. So we might ask, why should we care? And we're going to talk about that a little later. So again, a lot of times, if there's no seeming fix for the things that make us uncomfortable, what do we usually do? It was rhetorical. We seek to avoid them, and sometimes we even repress them. We keep them at bay, and we think by avoiding and not thinking about these things that somehow they're just going to go away. But with all the things that we suppress, they become like a heavy backpack which we subconsciously carry around with us and can show up in disturbing behavior and sometimes even chronic health issues because we're suppressing them. We're keeping them down. Sometimes we even forget them. Sometimes we even have traumatic things that happen in our lives at a young age, and we decide that, no, I cannot remember this. I do not wish to remember this. But they do come back, and they surface again. And a lot of these things, they keep us from truly living a full and a wholesome life. You know, when people hear about this philosophy, it appeals to them because they want to have a better way of life. They want spiritual enlightenment, and they want to be free from the negative thought patterns that they can't seem to get rid of. Thought patterns of unworthiness, feeling unloved, unforgivable, a failure, or just not being enough. And we know here that we are enough. And as they learn about these spiritual principles, they also learn about the spiritual practices needed to embody these principles so they can have the tools to shed these negative thought patterns that's preventing them from living their life more fully. And what they realize is that discomfort, well, what? Discomfort because change is uncomfortable. Because facing what one has avoided and suppressed is uncomfortable. Discomfort oftentimes precedes spiritual growth, and they bail. They were looking for something outside of themselves to fix them, to make their lives better. Because doing true inner spiritual work exposes those negative thought patterns to the light to be examined. They're looking for a guru that would wave their hand over them and say this mantra a couple of times to fix what's broken inside. Just don't make me feel uncomfortable. Just don't make me look at the things that I've come to believe about myself or about the world and ask me to do the work to fix that. You fix it. You fix me. Now, we all know that's not how true spiritual growth works. We know that. You know, I've always said that the science of mind philosophy is not for the weak at heart. It requires you to go within and connect to a power that is greater than yourself, that's available to you 24/7, 365, all the time. And guess what? You can use it. You can use it. Our founder, oh wait, they said I can work this now. Let's see what happens. Can you see it? Yeah, I like it. He says the thing then works for us by working through us and is us always. It cannot work for us in any other way. It cannot do it. So how does it get through us? Or how does it get to us? Again, that requires spiritual practice so that we come into a realization. Now think about that word realization. We come into a real experience of the one power that is back of all creation. That realization alone, that concept alone can cause true discomfort if you've been living in a paradigm of separation, unworthiness, lack, limitation, fear, and or despair. People hear that they are one with spirit, that they are worthy, that they are divine here and right now, and they just can't believe that this is true. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, said, it spreads, the thing itself, spirit, it spreads itself over the whole universe and shouts at us from every angle. Why? Because it is all that it is. I am that I am. But we cannot recognize that it is while we are believing that it is not. Do you hear that? You cannot believe in this power that is within you that can do whatever it is that you need for it to do. But you gotta believe that. You can't believe. And hence, I like that word, hence. Hence, it is written, they entered not into a greater consciousness and a greater way of life and a greater way of being because of unbelief. Developing spiritual muscle is just as uncomfortable as developing physical muscle. It requires dedication to a routine. Just as we tear down our physical muscles to build them back up, we also must tear down negative thought patterns, false ideas, and build up and be transformed and renew our way of thinking and being in the world. Far too many of us have stopped at the spiritual stage of spirit in me. But when you're truly doing your spiritual work, you then evolve through the spiritual domains and you move from spirit in me to spirit through me, to spirit as me, to spirit as we. And yes, there may be some divine discomfort along the way as we surrender to the realization that God, this power, this universal source, you can call it whatever you want to, is all that there is. It is in us, it's through us, it's around us, and in all of humanity, there is only one power. It's in all things. But listen, there has been a great deal of rugged individualism in this philosophy, and those that believe that the Centers for Spiritual Living and the Science of Mind teaching should have nothing to do with changing the world, only changing ourselves. Yet I tell you, no one is an island unto themselves. This paradigm is outdated and ineffective in creating a world that works for everyone. If it was solely about our individual selves, we would not need to gather here in community service. We would be content to remain on our individual islands of consciousness. Our parent organization has a global vision statement, which many of its centers have adopted a small part of it. The sentence of this vision statement reads, we envision a world that works for everyone and for all creation. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all creation. That is a very tall order. Have you looked out in the world today? Have you even looked at the news? I wanted to say newspaper. Have you looked at your thread or whatever you're looking at? That's a tall order. But really, what is a vision statement? A vision statement is a declaration that describes an organization's what it hopes to achieve in the future. It is meant to motivate members toward a shared purpose and provide a sense of direction. I found this beautiful quote when I was giving the class, The Essential Ernest Holmes, And it reads, "We are like the upward thrust of a wave. We look about seeing other waves, apparently disassociated from us. But underneath is one ocean pushing all waves upward. There's one mover in every movement, one undulating passion for self-expression. That one, that ocean, is the source of all life. And when we come into a true alignment with it, it will guide us and direct us and reveal to us the foundation of our very oneness with all of life, our interconnectivity with all of humanity, as people are waves, a part of this divine ocean's wholeness. We are always in relationship with other people and with life itself. In a practical sense, we understand our independence with others since we don't make our own clothing, most of us don't. We don't build our own houses, most of us don't. We don't grow our own food shoots. Most of us don't even cook our own food. Yin does not exist alone, nor does yang. It takes both to represent divine harmony, synergy, and creation. You know, Jesus has surrounded himself with disciples whom he taught to go out in the world and preach the good news of a new way of life. But he also told them to feed the poor. Why? Because nobody wants to hear, "Blessed are the poor," when they're hungry. Nobody wants to hear about healing the sick when you're doubled over in pain. How can you? Nobody wants to hear about "Blessed are the pure in heart" when they can't even stand up straight and they're lost and have no shelter and all alone. He wanted them to go out into the world and raise consciousness, but he knew about the hierarchy of human needs way before Maslow did, way before he did. And the first is always physiological needs: water, food, shelter, and then safety. And unless these needs are first satisfied, there will be no singing about a world that works for everyone. Nobody wants to hear that. The mundane and the sacred exist together in this realm, and they both must be attended to. And yet, there are those they keep resisting, and they won't let go of, "Let's just work on ourselves" point of view. Yes, we do have to work on ourselves. We have to. We have to build that foundation. That's why we have a class called Foundation. We have to start with ourselves. We have to let go of our own baggage. We got to let go of all the things that burden us down, that keep us thinking that we're separate from another. We have to do that, but we must use these principles to raise the consciousness, the collective consciousness. Otherwise, the world of effect and its separation and destructive paradigms will continue to play out. That's why the science of mind philosophy is so important to us as individuals and also to all of humanity that is currently marred down in the throes of gun violence, wars, climate change. Look at California. They're about to be swept away. Social unrest. We have that at our state capitals, in our federal halls, in Congress. All this social unrest. Nobody can get along to pass a law to save their lives. But these laws are for us to help make things work better. And then some of those laws are not for us. I'm just giving you something to think about there. Now, for all of us who embrace divine discontent, We are willing to face the shadows and negative thought patterns. We are the ones that break through and experience a spiritual awakening and a clear understanding of our oneness and our interconnectedness. This has never been more true. Lasting change, whether it be for ourselves or the world at large, always comes with divine discontent. We are several days, and case in point, we are several days in the season of nonviolence. And I know for sure that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi both had a restless longing, a divine discontent for better circumstances for their people. I know that they did. And they led them to relentless action and made enormous change in the circumstances of their people. And their actions still to this day motivates people around the world to strive for better circumstances and lasting change. February is Black History Month, and I often say rhetorically, why do we have these months? Next month is Women's History Month. A couple of months down the road is Hispanic History Month. I can go on. But why do we have them? Okay, I'll tell you. For one thing, the brutal treatment and enslavement of people of African descent. Now, this is discomforting, isn't it? It's discomforting when I speak these things and tell you these things. It's discomforting. The brutal treatment and enslavement of people of African descent for centuries have been well documented. Those atrocities have been well documented. However, these atrocities expose the cruelty of American history, of our history. Because we are all American, aren't we? It's our history. It exposes the cruelty of it by one group towards another, many others, and has been purposely omitted to portray America as the great and pure, and not to make people feel uncomfortable. The people that put the Constitution together want America. They wanted America to be great. They want America to be that shining city on the hill. And those words were beautiful, and they still motivate us to this day. But just like that, that was a vision that we all need to continue to move towards as one people, as one nation. Also, I just want to say about Black History Month that how can you justify systemic racism and degradation of a group of people and also highlight accomplishments and achievements that they've made throughout history? You can't. So you omit them. And next month, in Women's History Month, it'll be the same. There's women that I've read about in preparation for Women's History Month. I never knew these women did any of these things. There's a long list of African Americans that did so many things. I never knew that. I didn't know that whoever invented the traffic light, home security system. I didn't know a woman found the most element in the universe, which is hydrogen. It was a woman that found that out. Did you know it was a woman that mapped the surface of the bottom of the ocean? That there was a mountain range under the bottom of the ocean. She found that out. They laughed at her. That's why we have these months, but we need to raise our consciousness so that there's just one history. The history of the Spirit of the living God in and through each and every one of us. One people, one nation, one universe. Oh, where am I? I don't know. Okay. I'm going to skip all that. What I'm asking you to open to today is not to profess to love and live this philosophy by word alone, but by example in word, in deed, and in action. We are to study and apply these principles, embodying them in our heart and mind, so that we may become as beacons of loving light in the darkest of harbors and in the face of oppression and injustice. Let us be living examples of this philosophy and be spiritual advocates for those who are being victimized and targeted for the color of their skin, their ethnicity, their sexuality, and their gender. Let us become living signs of mind principles for the whole world to encounter. Let us put our relationship with the divine I am that is within us first and recognize that we are its light in the world. We are its voice against injustice. We are its hands that comforts and feeds the poor. We are it feeding the poor, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked and the unhoused. We are spirit in action because we have gotten our small selves out of the way of its divine circuit and have recognized that we are here to express its loving kindness and its ever-givingness of life. Its ever-givingness. Do you hear those words? It gives and it gives and it gives of life to all. Let me tell you, because a world that works for all is going to require a level of consciousness that has never existed before. Because the world that we live in now has never existed before. Ernest Holmes said, when we are filled with faith and conviction and its spirit, it may be transmitted to others. When we are filled with light, we help lighten the pathway for others. When we have a consciousness of the divine presence, others feel this presence and enter into its light with us. So I will end this talk hoping that you recognize that being uncomfortable is the least of our concerns. Because being divinely discontent is how spiritual infused change comes about to help make a world work for all. And so it is.